So I want to talk to you today briefly about warming up properly on game day. And that's really a crucial piece of your success. It's really important that we start out by saying that we need to be on the same page in terms of warm-ups and what the purpose is. So really the purpose of a warm-up is just to increase your body temperature. It's to acclimate your connective tissue, your joints, muscles to loading, and really to get your nervous system prepared for the heavier weights. So simply stated, it's to enhance your performance and prevent injury. A lot of you might be thinking, well, on game day, I want to warm up exactly like I do in a training session so I know how it feels. And on the surface level, that makes a lot of sense in terms of familiarity, but it makes very little sense in terms of the fact that a training day feels nothing like a game day. When you're in the gym or your garage or wherever you train, the atmosphere is cultivated, everything is set to your standard, the timing, the music, all these sorts of things, and you get to custom tailor the day around your needs. Game day is quite different. You're on somebody else's clock, somebody else's location, their equipment, their venue, and so forth. So plus your adrenaline is pumping, and you are going to feel much differently on a game day than you do at a training day. So I would just encourage you to not get necessarily married to a single type of loading progression when it comes to your warm-ups. Also, the opener that you're warming up to on game day might not be your typical heavy set that you take in training. So anyway, it's also key that you don't turn your warm-up into a workout. In fact, think about it for a second. Game day is the lowest volume you'll do the entire training cycle. You're going to take a handful of low rep warm-up sets and then 9 singles. It's like no big deal. So probably 4 to 6 total warm-up sets, depending upon the strength of the lifter, the size of the lifter, and of course the specific lift is going to be the sweet spot for most people. Any more than 6 is probably not going to work based on timing. In the squat, we can intentionally start early because it's the first event of the day. But after that, for bench and deadlifts, we're going to be on the IPF's clock. We are going to be on their itinerary. And this competition, as I said before, is going to move at a blistering pace. All of you are lifting in A group sessions, which means that's 8 lifters per flight. So let's do a little bit of math. 8 lifters times 3 attempts each. That's 24 at roughly a minute per attempt. And actually it's going to be less than that, but roughly a minute. That's 24 minutes. As I said, last year, the flights averaged about 22 to 23 minutes because the spotters and loaders were operating like a Formula One pit crew. So these flights are going to move very quickly. And then if you add in the fact that you'll have another flight lifting with you, that's another 22 to 24 minutes plus a 10-minute break. But I checked the live streams from last year, and I don't think they ever set the clock for a 10-minute break. It was more like a 5-minute break, 6-minute break is what it felt like. And then the flight started. So you're going to be done with your entire day, all of your lifting, in about 2.5 to maybe 2 hours and 45 minutes. So remember, your warm-ups need to be custom tailored to that end. We're going to be moving quickly. And so every single warm-up set that you do serves as a diagnostic tool, not only for yourself, but for the coaching staff to determine, are you ready for the next jump? Are you ready for the next progression? So it's better to plan and train, especially in the last few workouts like you're going to compete. A good rule of thumb for a last warm-up is probably going to be somewhere around 7 to 8% less than your opening attempt. So when we get on these game planning strategy calls, I think the most important thing when it's configuring your warm-ups is we determine what is your comfortable last warm-up. What is the last weight that you want to feel in the warm-up room that gives you a nice, solid jump to the opener. You don't want it to be so light that when you go out on the platform, you get this jolt and this shock to your nervous system. It's like jumping into a pool of cold water because you've made such a gigantic jump from your last warm-up to your opening attempt. Likewise, you don't want to work up too heavy and use up way too much gas in your tank. You don't want to be known as the king or the queen of the warm-up room. Nobody cares how much you lift in the warm-up room. What matters is what you lifted on your 3rd attempt. So let's not fall into that trap. So as I said, all of this can be scaled to the person, but a good rule of thumb is warming up to about 7 or 8% less than your opener. In the bench press, you can probably go a stitch heavier. We are going to make sure that you have enough time. That's our job. We are going to start early, and that's a key, because if you start early, we can always slow down. But if we start late and we procrastinate, then that takes up a lot of our time, and having to speed up is going to create a lot of additional anxiety and, of course, fatigue. So those are just some of the, painting with broad strokes, some of the good rules of thumb in terms of warming up, but we're going to configure that warm-up schedule with you, and we don't want to change you too much. Look, we want you to warm up in the way that you typically warm up, but most specifically, we just want to be mindful of what that last warm-up is. So oftentimes when we collaboratively install the game plan with you, what we'll be thinking about is what is a good last warm-up, and then we work backward to the bar. That way the warm-up progressions are sound, they're not clunky, we don't start at the bar and then just kind of work our way up and make things fit and so on and so forth. So anyway, that's enough on warming up. Really appreciate you watching. Stay tuned for next week when we're going to revisit your goals and discuss principles of making weight.